and welcome back to Never Trust an Atom. Today is Astrophotography for Beginners by a beginner. So since lockdown started, I've decided to take up astrophotography. I love space and I loved always using my telescope, and I thought, well, why not use this time to kind of actually work on that? And so I set up my Instagram at Space Beyond the Aperture, and yeah, so I thought I'd just tell you about kind of what I've learned and the different types. So there are three main directions that you can go with in astrophotography. So there's deep sky photography, lunar and planetary photography, and night sky photography. So for deep sky, I'm not really going to talk about that a lot because I haven't really gone into that area yet, because you tend to need a lot more expertise and equipment. So what I'm going to focus on are the last two. So with like kind of lunar and planetary photography, that was the first thing that I tried to do, because so this is my telescope and I've been using it to kind of look at the moon and Jupiter and Saturn mostly, because they're the most interesting to see with this kind of telescope. So I've got a Celestron 114 LCM and I'm borrowing it from school. It's really good, and what's the coolest thing about it is that you've got a remote control, which means that it can track across the night sky. I don't tend to set that up sometimes because I can do it myself, but it's definitely a lot easier to find your object rather than having to manually put the telescope up and down and left to right. So when I take pictures of the moon or Jupiter, what I tend to do is that I hold my phone up against the lens and then just take a video, and then I go back through that the next morning and screenshot the bits that are kind of good. And then you can also do it by attaching your camera to the telescope. But this isn't always as good because you have a lower magnification that way. But I did do that when I was looking at Comet Neowise. So I took this picture here and you can really see the green colour of the nucleus that you couldn't see in the night sky. Also back to Neowise brings me on to night sky photography. So Comet Neowise is probably one of my best astrophotographs I've taken at that point, and here it is. Here it is. So what I do is that I set my camera up on a tripod. So this tripod is just one from a older telescope that I have, and what I found really useful is by having a remote. And this is because the first time I started, it was mainly taking pictures of like satellites tracking across the night sky, and that worked, except that whenever I pressed the shutter to either take it or stop taking it, it would move, and that's not very useful because then the satellite looked like it's wiggling around in the sky. But with this remote, I can put the camera onto bulb mode, and then I use the remote. So you click it once really quickly to get it start taking the photograph, and then after maybe a minute or a couple of minutes you press it again, and that's how you can take really good pictures of the stars and hopefully the galaxy. So a couple of nights ago when I was out looking for meteors with the Perseids, I also set up my telescope to look at Jupiter and Saturn, which looked amazing. So I pointed my camera at them and set it for a couple of minutes, I think, and when I checked it and a couple of days later at what it had actually taken a photograph of, you could actually see the Milky Way. And I'm not gonna lie, I literally screamed when I saw that because I was so excited. Because you see all these amazing photos of the Milky Way on Instagram, and whenever I take a photo, it's just never that good. You can see constellations, but not really much else. So when I finally managed to take a picture of the Milky Way, I was so excited. If I want to get even better photographs, so this is the photograph. If I want to get clearer photographs, I'm going to have to learn to use some software to stack the images. And at the moment I don't know how to do that, but I'm slowly learning. And to do that I might also have to get something to track the night sky. But yeah, I'm really excited to learn about stacking. So once I've figured that out, I will do a part 2 of this video and help you guys. But you can also find lots of YouTube videos online to show you how to do this. So that's night sky photography. For me, I just basically point it at something and take a picture. The moon is also a really good thing to start off with both of these, because it's just easy to see in the night sky, and with the camera you can usually take some pretty nice photographs of it against the background. Okay, so if I just quickly talk about lenses. So this is just the lens that came with the camera. It's just a Nikon lens. It's 18 to 55 millimeters, so it does zoom in a little bit but not a lot. It's got quite a good magnification, and it's what I use for day-to-day photography and also my night sky photographs when I'm taking pictures of constellations or attempting to get a picture of the Milky Way. So it's quite good, and if I use it to take a picture of the moon, it comes out looking like this, which is good, but it's more of a kind of landscape rather than a picture of the moon. So that's what I've got this lens for, if I can get it on. Okay, so this is my Tamron lens, and is a lot longer, which means it's got a higher magnification. And this one is actually a 70 to 300 millimeter. So as you can see, it extends quite a lot. And this actually means that my photographs of the moon are a lot more zoomed in, like over here. And if you actually compare them to photographs of the moon I've taken through my telescope by holding my phone up to the lens and videoing it and screenshotting later, they're actually like pretty much the same quality and magnification wise, because if I take a photograph with my camera, it's obviously really high quality, which means that I can then zoom in and crop it out so they actually appear to be the same size in both photographs. So this is the one I took with the camera and then zoomed in a bit in post, and then this is one I took through my telescope with the kind of lowest magnification lens. Obviously if I use my high magnification lens, then I can actually zoom in really close to the moon, and it's obviously a lot like more zoomed in. But if you have the lowest magnification lens and the highest magnification camera, then they're actually pretty much the same. So you don't have to have a telescope to take cool pictures of the moon. However, if you do want to get into planetary photography, then you definitely need a telescope for that, as taking a picture of Jupiter or Saturn with this, it just looks like a big star, as you can see here. Yeah, so I hope this was useful, and back to the video. Going back to the telescope, I would say also start with the moon, and then once you've gotten a little bit more comfortable with using the telescope, you can then move on to Jupiter and Saturn, which look amazing. With my telescope, I can clearly make out Saturn's rings and also Jupiter and its 4 Galilean moons. I think you can also see some moons on Saturn, but I've never kind of actually looked at that because I've always just been like astounded by the beauty of its rings. So these are things that I would start off with. Mars and Venus, you tend to need a bit more of powerful telescope, so I might be getting a Barlow lens, which will basically increase the magnification. So at the moment I think I've got a 9 under 12 millimeter lens, and these are quite good. So usually I use the lower magnification just to find the objects, and then the higher magnification to actually kind of look and observe whatever I'm looking at.
I just want to remind you that astrophotography isn't as daunting as you might think. You can get to know your camera settings just through practice, and once you've got that down, you can just point your camera at the sky or whatever you want to look at, then adjust the shutter speed and ISO until something appears. For example, last night it was clear and I pointed the camera at Cassiopeia. I knew Andromeda was there somewhere, but I didn't think I could capture it until I saw this little smudgy star at the bottom. So I swapped lenses and adjusted my settings, and there it was. A whole different galaxy, 2.7 million light years away. It's safe to say I freaked out a little bit. So I definitely have room for improvement, and I'm still a beginner, but I find it makes me feel so much more connected with our universe and the science behind it. Okay, but how did I go from this, which is good but not as clear, to this? Well, editing photos can seem difficult at first, but can also be made easier just by using iPhone apps. Basically, I just fiddle with the settings, mainly to increase the contrast, as this is what stacking would do. I really do want to get into the stacking side of editing soon so I can get even better photos. Astrophotography is almost addictive, as I'm really enjoying learning and seeing my progress, and also I'm slowly overcoming my fear of the dark simply by looking up.
So I hope this was useful, and if you have any questions, please let me know.